Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais, and my co-host Andrew Bobo is on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. So welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast. Apparently all three of us have been running around like chickens with our heads cut off.
I didn't realize how dirty my face was.
I put him to work.
So, yeah. Andrew and Trek, or Trek and Andrew, because, you know, the text doesn't match the order in which you are sitting, but I'm not going to quibble, are on the other side of the mic. I've been personally losing my crap for about the last, 3 or 4 minutes, because right before we were supposed to go live, the surge protector on my desk that runs half this podcast gear all of a sudden died on me. So I was like, hurry up, grab that, plug that in over here, plug this in over here, go grab a battery pack to run the lights. Yeah. I hope this isn't indicative of how the show's going to go, because I'm already not amused. And given the subject matter, I'm sure I'm going to get really aggravated before the end of it.
Blood, if we can see that.
You guys should hook him up to a blood pressure monitor while you're doing the show. That would be great.
That would be kind of funny.
I mean, okay, Trek, I literally canned a video that is a blood pressure warning, and Andrew can activate it right when he thinks I'm about to totally lose it. But he hasn't hit it yet. He's waiting for just the right moment when this vein right here starts standing out and pulsing. So, but before we get to topic, Trek, how you been? What's been going on? Other than you just being busy as hell. I know it's training season. It seems like you're doing something every stinking weekend.
Yeah, no, things are good. Just got done teaching. We had our You Suck It's Not the Gun class, and then, of course, our Baofeng Basics, which you guys had Sam on. So Sam just got teaching it done. This weekend we've got our battle royale swag swap that's happening up here in the shoot houses, where we turn serious training shoot houses into just a bunch of adults drinking and playing with $50 gel blasters. So it's going to be a lot of shenanigans. So I'm looking forward to that. But the amount of work is, Andrew's been helping out. We're mowing the shoot houses, mowing the entire property.
Guys, did I lose y'all?
Property, getting that, we just got. Oh, you had to jinx it. You had to say something about how the show is going. But no, things are good. Just it's 45 years old a couple days ago. We got a yoga mat in the ground. My sciatic nerve's been going crazy, so I've been learning all sorts of new stretches just so I can actually walk around. Something just came out of the blue. But no, things are good. Things are good. It's great to have Andrew out at the property, and we had some steaks last night. Now we get to talk about world events, which we haven't done in quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to preface the gel blaster battle with, what is it, $10,000 optics last year.
Yeah, we had malls and stuff.
Yeah.
The $50 Nerf blasters. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was $50 gel blasters with a $10,000 thermal, malls on them. I had a $600 optic on mine. There was EOTech.
None of it did any good in the gel blaster fight. It was style points.
And then under nods, that's even better under nods. So, and then you can't see what's coming at you. So, but that was fun.
So I think y'all just perfectly illustrate the fact that men never really grow up. They just get more expensive toys as they go.
Basically.
Yeah, the mind stays the same. The body just gets broken. That's pretty much it.
I keep telling my wife all the time when she rolls her eyes at some incredibly juvenile thing I've done or said, I'm like, look, I am stuck at 13. Either learn to embrace being a middle school teacher or just suffer through it. This is what you got. Funny thing is, she is a middle school teacher. But other than that, where do we even start with world events, man? Because it seems like it seems like a couple of years ago now, every time it's an election season and it gets warm outside, people get restless and things start getting squirrely. And it kind of seems like we're heading back to that again.
The 4.0 is what's going on. But our signal's going up and down. But no, Summer Love 2.0 is basically what's been going on. So, which is now it's instead of BLM, instead of the whole Black Lives Matter thing, the new subject is Palestine and Gaza and those kind of that. So basically, same exact group of people, different title is what it is.
Same playbook, different uniforms.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
And
incredible
yeah,
tents. Their tents are very uniformed.
yeah, I did like though on the one campus they were doing psychological warfare with big huge speakers, crying babies. They had metal music playing, like, and they're so they're trying to break them, which I think they actually end up doing. But yeah, no, it's interesting. And then you got these people that are going to like $80,000 these universities that are way out of like overpriced, and then they're ripping up their diplomas. Like, tell me how that is saying anything.
Every time I see this though, I keep wondering like where are the parents? Because like I don't know, like if I were insane enough to send my daughter, who just turned 12 the other day, by the way, if I were insane enough to send her to one of these Ivy League universities where it's basically just a propaganda farm, and it came to my attention that instead of being in class, she was, fighting with the police and doing silly crap on campus, a conversation would get had at the Rabalais house, and the end result would not be a pleasant one. Like somebody would be getting pulled out of school because I'm not paying astronomical amounts of money to send you to college to rip up your freaking diploma. That's just not how this game is played. And like when I see this kind of nonsense, the first thought that goes through my mind is, I'm like, where are y'all's parents? Because they cannot be that detached from these situations as to not be still in your lives and trying to give you guidance on this nonsense. But then again, maybe I'm just unique among parents in the fact that I am involved in my kid's life, and everybody else is like, they're 18 years old, I pay their tuition, they're on their own. I don't know how this works anymore. I mean, it's 2024. The world I grew up in blew up a while ago, it seems like.
I'm not even going to attempt the name. There was the 1980s video of the KGB defector that, if you haven't seen the video, he's being interviewed and he's outlining the plan, the plan from how the United States is going to be defeated from the within, from outside players. And it's a very interesting video. It's, I believe, early 1980s. And I cannot remember the name of the individual, but the most interesting thing about it is, one, how that is definitely playing true. And according to that interview, we should have seen the results of what we're seeing now, probably another in the 1990s, early 2000s. And I actually had a interesting conversation with another instructor that I'd met for the first time. And after the class was over, we were just kind of jaw jacked. We had talked about that video, and he brought up a really interesting thing. And his these results earlier, and he said that 9/11, the rejuvenation of the American spirit that did bring every American together, may have kind of put that on the back burner. It might have hit a pause button. And so now what we're seeing is, we haven't had that unifying moment in a long time. We're definitely very divided. And so that was a very interesting conversation. And the other thing that really gets me about all this is, a geopolitical expert I am not, and I will certainly agree that what is going on over in Israel and the Middle East and the atypical warfare that's going on right now, it deserves a lot of very, very in-depth, very emotionally separated discussion. The saddest part about, regardless of what side of the aisle you are sitting on with these discussions, is that there is no place for violence. There is no place for taking over property that is not yours. There is no place for using the English language with words that you know full well do not mean what you're labeling other people as, ostracizing other people. I mean, reminiscing of the 1930s Germany with the Jews on our own American soil. All of these things, I'm willing to have a discussion, and I nobody even needs to know what my take on that current situation is right now, but I'll have a discussion. I want to have a fact-driven discussion with people that can leave their emotions at the door and the facts at the table. And that's what we're seeing right now. Is the scariest thing to me, is that the free speech in the United States of America is willfully being destroyed by educational centers that are supposed to be the bastions of where free speech is created. And we see the people that are being violently ousted from trying to speak, or shouted down when they're trying to speak, instead of, okay, listen to what they have to say and then hit them back with facts. And if you can hit them with facts, that's how you win a debate. But immediately what's happening is anyone that is getting violent, that is shouting down other people, that is blocking traffic, that is throwing fireworks into crowds of law enforcement, or even the people that agree with you. We don't want to be on your side. It's the same argument with the difference between responsibly armed citizens and gun owners. Is that a responsibly armed citizen lives and dies by the 4 rules of responsible firearms handling, and then has that jackwagon at the range that's muzzling everybody, that's ending their gun, that's absolutely being irresponsible. They're like, yeah, Second Amendment, bro. We're in this together. And it's like, no, you're actually way over there, and I don't want anything to do with you, even though I know you're a gun owner and I respect your right. Not. You should not. We need to get the problem we have right now is that target. Discussion should be viewpoints very well valid. We'll have that discussion versus getting violent college campuses.
Yeah,
and
it's
sorry, Andrew, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Go ahead,
We have a delay.
no, you're good. There's a lag. There's a little bit of a lag. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I think that the parallel you just drew, Trek, is very telling, because, like, in the Second Amendment community, I can't say all, I certainly won't say all, but I would like to think most of us are self-policing. Like, if you see your buddy on the range doing dumb stuff, most of us feel very inclined to go over and be like, hey, dude, like, please don't turn your gun down and muzzle the entire range while you're doing that. We'll be polite, but we're going to issue corrections because it's a safety issue. And because we naturally understand that, we reflect upon each other. It's the same reason why in the military, if your buddy's doing dumb stuff, you go tighten him up, because if not, he makes all of you look stupid, and usually makes all of you pay right along with him for whatever stupid thing he was doing that you didn't stop him from doing. And yet in this situation, I see a group that is like, they are so tribal, they are so in lockstep, there's so little critical thinking, and there's so little room for dissent. They can't correct each other. They cannot self-police, because if they do, you're cast out. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's no room for nuance in their propaganda. There's no room for a person to, like, say, I agree with you on this, but I don't agree with you on this. Like, it's the group of people we are talking about more closely resemble a religious group or a cult than they do a political social group, because they're
right.
You either
successful.
It's like going to church, though. Like, you can't say I agree with Genesis, but Revelations isn't my bag. You can't do that in church. You can't say I'm going to drink the wine, but I'm not going to take eat the bread. It's a religion. It's pursued that way, and and they police each other that way, where to question the dogma and the doctrine is in and of itself heretical. What concerns me is like, I see it. I don't even begin to know how to deal with it, because I have had to take people who fall into that, who I once had a relationship with, and I've had to cut them off, because they're being told that because we have a difference of opinion, I'm a bad person, and I'm not willing to allow that toxicity into my life or my family's life. But I don't even know, other than just shortening up the apron strings, I don't know how to deal with that person anymore. I don't know if there's a way to save them, because it's like a cult.
Well, they're going to get, the reason these are happening on the college campuses is because that's the church, right? So you're not going to see that in Rapid City, South Dakota. The townsfolk would, pitchforks and torches and everything else, and they would put an end to it. And the thing that gets me, like you're talking about, is it's getting to the point of silliness, not to them, but to anybody else that's a critical thinker that can free flow from a left-leaning idea to a right-leaning idea based on facts. I saw the complaint from one of these little exclusion areas, that there was a complaint because there's too many white people in the camp. And it's like, well, I got news for you. That's pretty much everybody that, is taking time out of their not evidently busy college careers to put on a Middle Eastern scarf and act like they have anything of an idea of what's going on over in the geopolitical politics of Israel and Gaza. But and what I like about turning a frown upside down with this whole scenario is you are starting to see ESG and DEI dying quickly. I can't remember what was it, Columbia University, basically one of the big one of the big colleges, I don't think it was Columbia because I think they're too far gone, but one of the colleges basically just said DEI program's completely done. All that money is going into local law enforcement or the college law enforcement. You've got CEOs of major companies that are saying, you spent 4 years, you tore up your diploma. Okay, it was symbolic, but you still graduated. We're not hiring you. I'm not hiring you. It's like, hey, hand grenade. Yeah, pull your pin and go sit in this cubicle. And one day when somebody says the wrong pronoun, you're going to lose your mind. And then I've got to get all these people involved to deal with you. No, I'm going to take the person that can handle themselves emotionally, and they're going to come on board. And so I think, it's that pendulum is swinging. But the reality is, through this, especially this year, it's going to continue. It's going to happen in very localized areas because those are the only places that will allow it to happen. I'm absolutely amazed that colleges have allowed themselves to have their own property taken over for this long. The faculty from many of these places are showing their true colors, that they are that indoctrination breeding ground, because it's Keanu Reeves movie studies and lesbian counterculture, degree or whatever the hell is going on. The rest of the people that left and right that are critical thinkers are going, okay, this is the fringe. This is the fringe. But those people can have a conversation about Israel and Gaza and Palestinians and have good factual driven discussions and not get into this quagmire that is occupying, of course, the Twitter sphere and local news. But yeah, it's very telling. It's very telling. And the big thing I think Andrew and I were talking about last night over steaks, the thing that really gets me is these kids will, and some of the kids are like, I don't even know why I'm protesting. They just told me to show up. They just told me to show up. Don't even know what's going on. The Queers for Palestine. Okay, congratulations. That's great. You can love whoever you want to love. They would throw off a building or stone. It's just male and female environment, and one of the biggest things that I'm just laughing at are everyone's got their iPhone out and they are holding it up like they're taking a selfie, and they're bouncing into each other like bumper cars, trying to say, you assaulted me, no you didn't. That's like when we were little kids, like, you hit me, no you didn't. You hit me, no you didn't. It's like,
I'm not touching you.
We're not seeing
I'm
the
not
alphas that
touching
are
you.
like, hey, I'm trying to get to that hall right there. No, you can't. Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm going there, and if you get in my way, you're going to get an alpha reaction. But what we're seeing, it's an incredible environment of let's just bounce into each other and then call the police. Of course, the police that we're trying to defund. These things don't happen. Like I said, Rapid City, South Dakota. Go to a cowboy who's trying to get into the bar and say, no, here's my cause, X, Y, and Z, and you can't come through here. That cowboy is going to look at you. He's going to switch the toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other side of his mouth. He's going to say some real old-timey, cool one-liner. And if you don't get out of his way, he's going to beat you half to death. And the town folk are going to go, yeah, you really shouldn't have done that. And the police are going to show up and said, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And that's justice. That is the way that most places work. It's not that the cowboy wanted to assault somebody. You can't stop somebody from going into where they're lawfully allowed to go. But this is that silliness that's happening on these college campuses where, and I, as a former law enforcement officer, we've gotten to a point, and I made a post on our Twitter account, probably late at night, probably had a couple gin and tonics because it got to the surface. And I basically said, cops, I used to be one of you. I'm not anymore. Thank you for what you guys are doing. But if you exist at Columbia University, in New York City, in Baltimore, in Denver, Colorado, there are lots of great organizations out there, law enforcement and other, that will hire you because of your work ethic and your ethos and everything. It's time to give them your badge, keep your gun, and go elsewhere. And what we need to do, I get it. You got food that you need to put on the kids' table, clothes on their back, gas in the car. We're at a point where the serious people that are wrapped up in those environments need to say, not my circus, not my monkeys. This is all you. And sit back, get some marshmallows in a lawn chair, and just watch it all burn down. But the problem is there are very good people that they're holding on like there is some sort of recovery. Well, that plane is in a nosedive. The wings have ripped off. And the only thing that is going to stop it is reality, which in the sake of my analogy is the ground at 400 miles an hour. And reality is eventually going to kick in, and it's going to be ugly. And you don't want to be anywhere near there because I come to work on time. I obey the laws. I do my job exactly as the SOPs dictate. Those environments do not exist in what we call that reasonableness. And I talk about that all the time in use of force. Reasonableness is based on the jury of our peers. And lawful does not always mean reasonable. And that's usually in a good sense. Like, guy goes for a cell phone in his pocket after being told to put his hands in the air. It's dark. He's wanted for a possibly violent crime. He goes for that cell phone. He gets shot. It's not legal. You can't shoot a guy for a cell phone, but it's reasonable. The use of deadly force is reasonable. That only works when you can show a jury of your peers and they say, okay, close your eyes, put yourself in a cop's uniform. It's 11 o'clock at night. Guy just beat his wife half to death. He then makes a fast movement to his pocket. Well, if the entire jury goes, well, guns are evil, you shouldn't have those. What skin color was it? You can't shoot those people with certain skin colors, no matter what they do. It's not reasonable anymore. And so those cops are literally, they're doing their job to the best of their ability. And not just cops, anybody, the maintenance people. You're existing in a world where now, where 10 years ago, everyone would be like, yeah, of course you defended yourself. You are living in a world where reasonable has been completely flipped upside down, like Ed Calderon would say, the upside down, right? In Stranger Things. And you can do everything. I'm not a religious guy, but the Christian values, do unto others. You could do everything right, and you could have the book thrown at you. And we're seeing that in New York City. I don't want to too far on a tangent, but Dexter, Tyler Dexter, or Dexter
Yes.
Tyler, the guy that just built the guns, is he allowed to do as an American? The judge literally said, "Don't bring the Second Amendment into my courtroom." That is the upside down. That should be an immediate disbarment, in my opinion. That should be an immediate prison sentence for any judge that says constitutional law is not welcome in my courtroom. But that is their definition of reasonable. He will probably, especially with that statement on the record, he's probably going to, after many hundreds of thousands of dollars and years off his life, he's going to walk out scathed, but okay. Well, there's a lot of people that they just haven't been put in cuffs yet, and they're doing everything right, but it's not right according to the mob. Yeah, that's the thing that I see going on right now. That's a big problem.
And what sucks is that guy, he's going to get thrown in jail, thrown in prison.
Oh, just 10 years. He just got sentenced 10 years.
But that's the thing that sucks is he's going to get that sentence. He can appeal it from jail, from prison, and he can appeal all he wants. And while he's sitting in jail on this unconstitutional order from this judge, that's where he's got to fight his appeal from.
And all the gangbangers with their Glock switches from Wish.com are burning through innocent people, and then no cash bail.
Yeah.
No cash bail. You're out the next day. But this guy didn't hurt anybody, exercised his rights as protected under the Constitution. But these are small case studies. And there are no, you talk about France and Germany, they have what's called a no-go zone, where even police do not go. If you are not of a certain appearance or ethnicity, you do not go to these places because the law is unchecked as it's supposed to be. We now have no-go zones easily in the United States.
There's some I think there's actually one in Detroit.
Well, I'm just referring, just by our definition, there are places that I will hey, we're going to U of N campus. I'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what on earth has caused you to want to possibly do that to yourself and your family and your loved
Well,
ones?
so going off the whole with police
Andrew,
and stuff.
What did I tell you, Andrew, when you came to visit me a couple years ago, and you said you wanted to go to New Orleans?
Well,
tell Trek.
Well, no, I said I wanted to go to New Orleans. I wanted to see it. Just, hey, let's just drive through. And Phil goes, "Did you bring your gun?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Did you bring a plate carrier?" I said, "No." He's like, "Then we're not going."
No, we're not going.
I was half joking about the plate carrier, but what I literally told Andrew was, if you want to go and you just want to walk to the French Quarters, you could say you went to Canal Street. There are rules. We're not leaving Canal Street. We're both packing. We're not walking in. I will loan you a freaking gun for this as long as you have your permit. It has reciprocity in Louisiana, not New Orleans, but that's another discussion. And I literally told him, I'm like, we're going to walk down we're going to walk down Canal Street or Bourbon Street. We're going to walk back to our cars. We're going to leave. We're not going into bars. We're not going into places. We're not going to have fun. Our heads are on the swivel. Because I'm like, you need to understand that it's not like New Orleans is the Wild West. However, if you get 2 blocks outside of the areas where the tourists are, you can get rolled because they know you don't live in that neighborhood. And when the cops show up 4 hours later, if no one got killed or shot, they'll tell you shouldn't be here.
Oh yeah, there's places in Detroit you get pulled over for stopping at stop signs because they want to know why you stop. Like you don't. They've told us. I know people, students of mine, like you don't stop here. Just roll.
Well, I mean, so going off of the police stuff, so we had Summer of Love 1.0 with the whole BLM riots and stuff like that. We are still seeing shortages. Mostly, that is true. Mostly peaceful. We are still seeing shortages around the United States of cops. departments are still under massive shortages from that whole fallout, from cops leaving in droves, because of what's going on. What's going to be interesting is this year, it's going to be interesting to see what that fallout is. So we have all these departments with a lower amount of cops. Now we have a new, mostly peaceful summer coming up with a lower law enforcement number than we did the last election. And so that's what I'm waiting to see, is what the fallout is from that. So I just say hold on to your butts.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a big city, you're screwed.
Yeah.
The cops have been poached from all the small good communities where actually the rule of law, like that's where people are law enforcement have gone to. You know, Indiana has taken a lot of law enforcement. They're putting big bonuses out there. I just saw Wyoming was basically saying, hey, you want to work in a place where law and order is actually upheld? I mean, that's the giant billboards, and they're putting those up in blue states and blue cities. I mean, that's, if you're in those places, you know, like, hey, here's a great Wyoming, don't mess around. Montana, maybe there's one place in Montana, the big city, you know, the capital, you could probably mess around, but you know, you're not going to get away with any of those shenanigans. But we know, you know, Detroit, Baltimore, Denver, Philadelphia, basically all the places that are kind of the same usual suspects every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're also seeing is a mass exodus of people that are fed up with it, and they're trying to flee. But of course, with inflation and housing market and everything, it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, hold on to your butts is right. But if you can kind of know where you live, if it's how much you got to hold on to your butt.
Yeah.
Some of us will be watching it in high def on TV. Others will be like, man, this stereo surround sound sure does sound good. Hey, TV's not on. Oh crap. Close the windows. Like some people are in for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, almost more than that, like, I think the situation we're heading towards, though, is in some ways like the most dangerous one. It's the transitionary period, because I might have made some comments, you know, during the times of the mystery flu about how if ever there was a moment I could have been swayed to defund police, that would have been it, because I was like, okay, we have police participating in stuff they're not supposed to be participating in. They're enforcing things that they shouldn't be enforcing. I'm kind of okay with those cops not having jobs anymore, because, you know, they were misbehaving in my opinion. But I digress. But if we were in a situation where there was there's no rule of law, there's no police, none, all gone, then people like the three of us are going to do what we have to do to protect our families. You know what I'm saying? If it involves plate carriers and AR-15s, so be it. If it involves handguns, so be it. We're going to do what we have to protect our families. And if there's enough law enforcement that law and order can be maintained, we usually don't have to pull the AR-15s and the plate carriers out of the closet to maintain that. But in this weird transitionary period where law enforcement levels are falling and their ability to maintain order is dropping, or even their willingness to try because of the silliness going on around us, we're in a situation where criminals might be emboldened because law enforcement cannot respond or will not respond. And yet there's just enough law, you know, appearance of law and order that if you smoke somebody, you might have to go stand in front of the judge and explain yourself. Like, this is the worst version of the situation we could be in, where you could burn somebody down because you called 911, 15 minutes later a cop never showed up. You had to do what you had to do to protect your family, but the cop shows up just in time to go bring your butt to jail because you shot somebody. You see where I'm going with this?
Sure. Yeah, it's very interesting. I cannot remember who I was talking to, and I want to give him full credit. And it very well could have been one of the two of you in one of the discussions that we had. But I've been really pondering for the longest time. You always hear about situations like what we're in right now, and I am a firm believer this is going to be a year. The closer we get to November, the craziest it's going to get. And I'm not going to get political, but deal. Either way the election goes. With right now, I really enjoy listening to RFK. He does not have my vote. There's some issues that I just cannot get behind. But you know what? I have listened to him on Joe Rogan. I have really enjoyed his discussion. Once again, fact-driven on vaccine safety. But we're already seeing they're doing everything they can to make sure he cannot be on the stage, which is completely wrong. The dude should have every right to get up there and try to get whatever vote that he can. He's done the work. So we know it's going to come down to two people. Either way, it ain't good, because half of the country essentially is not going to be okay with the guy that wins. So there's going to be problems. Now, the results of that The results of that are going to then dictate where the problems are at, the geographical location. So it was very interesting. Where I'm going with this was, for the longest time, when you get into talk about self-defense or preparations and being a prepper and just being responsibly American, right? You always hear about the spark. Everyone's worried about the spark that could start something big. And I cannot remember who it was. It was one of the best things I said. It was like, no, I play with my flamethrower out here after the rain because I can spray diesel and gasoline all over green grass. And yeah, I may kill the grass, but that spark, in fact, that big old ball of flame, isn't going to start a forest fire. But give it till August here in Michigan, where it's been dry for 2 weeks. I'm not going out there and playing with my flamethrower because I understand the conditions are now set for a raging forest fire. And that was what this individual said was, it's not about the spark, it's about conditions that cause fire and allow a fire that would have gone out on a wet day to burn and rage. And right now the problem is we have had the conditions being set for the past 3 years, longer than that, since the 1980s KGB.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, for decades now, the conditions have been set where wildfire is absolutely a capability. And so that to me is in the front of my mind now as we go through the normal life. I go and I teach and I do my adult things and pay my bills. But I think I've joked to you quite a few times. I'm like, yeah, I got bills I got to pay next year, but I'm not sure if the country's going to be around or if they're really going to be worrying about my mortgage payment. And I'm joking when I say it, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, right now, of all the times I might buy something on credit because there might not be a creditor in 2 years or a system that was the same way that it was now because things are getting so stupid. And only a blind person, and even a blind person with their enhanced senses of everywhere else would go, yeah, things are getting crazy. I don't need to watch it on TV. I can feel it in the air and I can, I can smell it in the air. You have to be someone that is so aloof. That's the best word. You have to be someone that is so aloof with your head in the sand to not see that if you are believing that a system is going to be there to protect you for that 10 minutes to half an hour to 4 hour response time, you are out of your mind. And more likely, if it's truly a big problem, it's not going to be hours. It's going to be days. It's going to be weeks.
What was it? Pittsburgh? Was it Pittsburgh where the saying? Yeah, especially in the summer, like that's crazy to think about.
People then stay there.
Yeah,
stay there. Because if I wanted to have county sheriff's office, but my preference, I'm only one there. Go up. Probably even though it's a small town sheriff's office. I know a little bit about the trouble with blacking. Yeah, they're the ones that call something on. Right. So if I live like everything is my responsibility. These people that are in Philadelphia that get that news, it's like, oh, by the way, you're on your own and you're packed in like sardines with lots of other people that have the.
Uh-oh. Okay, listeners. Well, apparently Andrew and Trek have encountered some technical difficulties. This tends to happen when you live out in the middle of an undisclosed location, far, far away from modern internet.
Yeah, so that's what. Well, we're going to shut the camera off. It might be the best.
I was just telling the listeners this is what happens when you live at a non-disclosed location and witness protection. Sometimes the internet is
all this. It's not to disappear. You're welcome. You're gorgeous. Goodbye.
Let's see if I can.
You can turn it. You're supposed to turn off right now, otherwise I have this awkward. It's really awkward. There we go.
How do I do it?
Are we still on?
Are you trying to turn your video off?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Camera.
Just hit the stop cam button.
Oh.
There's a button at the bottom. It says stop cam.
Yep. So just there you go. Get out.
Oh, hey, that's right there.
Hey, there you go.
I'm old.
Okay. So
there.
Hey, I'm old. There's I don't know technology anymore.
Yeah,
you're the youngest one here.
Barely.
Those people that now have been announced by the government, right? Now, a government has the capability, a government of the people, to fill the gaps in, that law and order, so that natural law does not need to be the rule of the day. But now they've said, hey, you're packed into the city like sardines. Collectively, all of you, not individually, I'm not saying you're all individually stupid, but collectively, human beings have the IQ of a stick of celery. By the way, from these hours, if something goes bang really loud and you're all going to lose your minds, make good life choices. I don't buy the you got your family.
Mhm.
So just stick around and find out what's going to happen. Like that should be that to me, if I lived in that spot, I would then buy that piece of vacant land and do the pioneer thing, because getting mauled by a bear, slip tripping and falling, stabbing myself with a rusty nail, those are far better options than being in the middle of Philadelphia when the balloon goes up.
Yeah.
Like, ain't nobody making it out alive, except for the cannibals, which is now evidently coming back into popularity, right? So yeah, it's a. I truly believe that this year, for all preppers, all responsibly armed Americans, all responsible Americans or critical thinking Americans, if you have not started making at least intellectual plans, you are very wrong. Because what I hope is that November 6th rolls around, you're like, yeah, there's some pissed off people, but well, back to work as usual.
Yeah, I think I might take that day off.
My over under on that is not good right now, and nothing, especially from the president, office of the president on down, is giving me any confidence that they have any clue of what is going on, or they know full well what's going on, and they are just all about letting it continue. So yeah, it's this does not reflect the views of MDFI LLC, but this is mine. And so, yeah, I'm definitely, November 5th comes around, I'm going to be dugging like a tick here at Trexico, and I'll be eagerly hoping for best case news. But I just don't think this country right now is green enough to not let a spark catch.
We're so close. It's a tinderbox. I mean,
Right.
the smallest thing now sets off a group of people that then burn a city down. Like,
which would happen in 2020. I mean,
right.
Yeah, it was.
And
absolutely.
and then with that, we've had 4 years of just constant pushing and just constant, basically the government constantly going one way and fueling the fire. Basically, it's they're doing it's kind of like California and their whole wildfire issue. Like, they've been doing a lot of forest. They've been letting their forests die. They've been doing no forest cleanup at all. And then they wonder when the forest fire happens, they wonder why it happened, why it spread so fast. They do nothing to mitigate that.
Wow.
So that's the same thing with this. And so, yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see, definitely. But I also just want to throw out there that your idea tonight was to smoke cigars, do this, and you thought it was over the phone. And I said, no, we're going to do video. It's going to be awesome.
You did say that, and I tried to warn you about the internet up here.
And so, funny you mentioned that. I realized 5 minutes before y'all showed up, I recently had to get a new phone, and this one has a USB-C, and I do not have the cables I need to convert from this to a 3.5mm audio jack. So if you had decided to call me, we would have had a whole nother set of problems.
Yeah, of course you have to buy the lightning adapter to 3.5mm jack. Of course, that's how they get you. Right?
Just buy the P4s have that Bluetooth adapter that you can plug in.
A $9 cable. A $9 cable is cheaper and more reliable than a Bluetooth adapter. Yeah, well, I haven't lost. Okay, this is what happens when you have a mouthy co-host. So I haven't lost this in all these years. We haven't used it in forever because, we've had pretty reliable internet ever since you moved out of the middle of nowhere. But
no,
I digress.
Yeah. Welcome back to the middle of nowhere.
It's okay. This is quieter. I've been camping, and yeah, it's nice not hearing semi trucks.
Yeah, Andrew is the only guy that's like, hey, the party's on Saturday. So, well, I can't make it to the party, so I'll come up 2 days early and I'll help you work. Like, God bless that work ethic. But man, I've been like, we're gonna be here at the party. You want to take those days off, not the work days. Well, Phil, to one thing that's been the discussion of this tinderbox. The thing that really gets me, my dad, 1936, my dad was born. He was too young for World War II. Because age, college, Korean War, all this jet. So my dad's not a veteran. I'm a veteran, but I remember him talking about life during World War II, and I am a student of history, and I really enjoy learning about what has happened to us as a civilization, maybe so we'll never ever have it happen again, and the horrors of conflict. And I'm just, the biggest thing that gets me recently, and it's not the political side of the Palestinian or Israeli, it's the fact that you can be Jewish and you can not be Israeli. You can be Israeli And you cannot support the Israeli government. In fact, I believe there is a bit of strife going on over there with that. What really gets me, that where I've lost so much faith in our country, is that the stuff that we saw in Germany with the Jews is now in high def 5G happening on America's college campuses, where people that are Jewish, that maybe have never been to Israel, are having violence done to them, are being banned from their places of higher education. And I can understand where fascists, by the actual definition, bigots, all of these things, I can understand that from the onesie twosie, but institutionalization, when you have these college presidents testifying before Congress saying death to Jews a violation of the code of conduct, and with smirks on their face, like they just talked to their lawyer, they say only if it's actionable. So only if you kill a Jew on the college campus is a problem, instead of saying absolutely that's unacceptable. Doesn't matter if it was death to Palestinians, death to Jews, death to the white people, death to black people. By saying anything like that, you'd be in violation and you are absolutely done from this higher education facility. Instead, we're seeing the exact opposite. And this is transcending college campuses. This is in places of business. Google, for example, where they're taking over the CEO's office. This stuff is terrifying, because that classic line that we hear over and over again, those that forget history are doomed to repeat it. And we are seeing it. And it's one of those, you want to stand there in high fluorescent orange, waving your hands, going, guys, do you not see? Do you not see what is happening? We can have a discussion about, is the Israeli policy about what they're doing in Gaza, is that wrong? But you should not be beating a young Jewish girl who's going to college unconscious because she's just trying to get to the library, and you don't agree with what Israel is doing. But people are saying, no, it's okay. And it's not being quashed. Like every one of us, every American after World War II, punching.
Guys, did I just lose y'all again? I don't know if I lost them again.
Freedom of speech. I'll hear what you have to say.
Right.
But the moment you lay a hand on somebody, you trespass on someone's property, or you commit vandalism, you have lost protester. You are now a problem saying, yeah, in certain geographic incident, or once again in that Philadelphia where no one's coming to save you. So that's the scary thing that I've got going on with the country is, it's okay. There's going to be bad guys out there. But when the definition of reasonableness starts to shift so much that we are in, not literally, well, literally, but not officially, in a balkanization. Michigan is balkanized. Mm-hmm. There is places that I will not go. And if I were to go, I know full well that my use of deadly force or intermediate force is completely different, because even if I do it by the book, I am done for. That's the balkanization. That is balkanization of Michigan. That is the balkanization of red states and blue states. We're getting to the point where people are going to start to flee to a state line like they used to do back before law enforcement could pursue past county lines and state lines. It's going to get to the point where you're just getting across because a prosecutor in the red state is going to say, no, we're not extraditing them to your blue state because that charge that you just made was baloney, versus that interstate saying, hey, what was the law that was broken? Oh, yeah, that ain't right. So we're, of course, going to hand this guy back over. And we are already seeing it. And God help us, this ridiculous trial. Donald Trump, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I've become more of a fan of Donald Trump with all the crap that's going on. And he's got my vote over what the other choice that I've got, because when I look at the economy and the cost of everything, like there's things that I do as a critical thinking human being I'm going to base a vote on. But when you look at where these trials of like the January 6th defendants, where Trump is on trial, you've literally doing these trials in places where the opposition has figured out that all you got to do is get on the jury. That's all you got to do. It doesn't matter what the judge reads the law, the elements of the crime, collusion, 2 or more people involved in a secret agreement to break the law. Those are your 3 elements. Did they commit collusion? And someone on the opposition just said, oh, yeah, they totally did those 3 elements, but I like their politics, so not guilty. That's where we're at. And
Right.
the January 6th defendants, some of them deserve jail and prison. There's a lot of them that do not. I think the conviction rate is over 90%.
Yeah.
Why? It's in Washington, D.C. Like if there was a trial any other place, maybe their home state, it would actually probably be factually based. And if they did this and did that and evidence rules and things like that. But yeah, it is a very scary time for anyone that really, one, gives a crap about the United States of America, not the government. The government are human beings. There's been great governments and bad governments. But when you care about what the flag stands for and what this country can be, and you're watching it being destroyed by people that could never, ever, ever have had the wherewithal and the mental capacity to do this experiment, that's terrifying. Because we know what the end goal is. And those are all those countries out there we go, oh, thank God I didn't live there when they massacred their people or they starved all Ukrainians. It's really a terrifying thing. But I think the biggest, and I'll turn the mic back over, the biggest danger that I see is it's never, you wake up and there's tanks rolling down the street and there's anti-aircraft fire. That is the frog being tossed into hot water. The frog, by the old adage, jumps out of the hot water because it burns. What has happened to us is that because there aren't RPG holes in our buildings and it's not everyone deals with shootings on their block constantly, we are the frog that was placed in cool water. The cool water was the country that was founded under equality, the equality of opportunity, not the equality of outcomes. And the temperature has been raised and raised. It's boiling now, and we're sitting in the water going, man, this is hot, but at least it's not hotter.
Everything's fun. We're having fun right now.
Right. Everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The whole world's burning down. This happy thought brought to you by Jack at MDFI.
Well, no, but I mean, it's not supposed to be a happy thought. It's supposed to be, a dose of reality. And,
Sure.
See, in moments like this, when we get really doomy and gloomy, I tend to go back to my own personal mantra, which is like, the world sucks. Get a helmet. What can I influence? And other than pontificating on the internet in front of people weekly, which I don't think has a huge impact personally on the direction of like 30-something million people. I take situations like this and I go back to like me as a father. Because I've talked to people before, and specifically when we're talking about because we're talking about by the majority we're talking about college age kids, but they're still somebody's sons and daughters. And I always go back to what can we do to influence the situation so that this problem doesn't get any worse, or maybe has a prayer of rebounding. And I've been very forthcoming with people about my belief that we as parents have a duty to indoctrinate our children in our values, or somebody else is going to indoctrinate them in their own. And the word indoctrinate has a negative connotation to some people, but I'm going to tell you that there's a 12-year-old in this house who she's been talked to by her father about what the Bill of Rights is and about what her rights as an American citizen are and what her rights as a breathing human being are, separate from what her government says she's allowed to do. We've had conversations in this house about, the balance between federalism and anti-federalism, and about some of these ideas that our country has wrestled with for almost 250 years, how long those ideas have been wrestled with and why they existed back then and why they still exist today. I talk to her about those things because I need her to be able to be a critical thinking American. She has to know her history. She has to know where she came from. She has to know why things around her seem to be in this constant state of, back and forth and battle over these concepts, and understand that some of these are not new concepts. These are things that have been happening for a long time. But mostly I need her to be filled with my values and my wife's values, because if not, then one day she's going to go out of my house and there's going to be somebody out there waiting to pump her full of all the nonsense that these kids we've been talking about are pumped full of. And I would like to believe that if she is indoctrinated with my values, as I was indoctrinated with my parents' values, I was in college, for a period of time where maybe things weren't to this level, but this kind of thing has been brewing in universities for decades. But it couldn't penetrate me. It couldn't sway me. No one could sway me off of my own beliefs back then because they were already so firmly rooted. So what I tell people at this point is, if you are an influence in a child's life, be a positive one. Because if you're not, somebody else is going to influence them. And I feel like that's what we're seeing right now.
Well, I think no, you're absolutely right, Phil. We're seeing not just the household getting really involved in that education of their children, as in, old timey knowledge passed down from mother or father to child. We're seeing lots of people that are realizing that the education system, the classic, we're trying to make you factory workers, we're trying to get you indoctrinated into that 9 to 5 routine with this public school system. You're seeing scores and scores of people, as you guys know, pulling their children out, realizing the dangers that's happening. And what I really do like to see is you are seeing big names in leadership in the professional world, CEOs, COs that are saying, yeah, you can get through Columbia, you can get through NYU, you can go through whatever college it is where you're playing these stupid games and getting these ridiculous degrees. You will have no place. You will have no place in our professional workforce. And so, yeah, that pendulum is swinging, and we're seeing people that are starting to say, okay, grassroots. And then the people that are at the top level are saying, well, strategic level, we're not going to allow this to occur. And there is something to be said that the majority of these individuals that are currently involved in these, not protesting, but actual violent acts or criminal acts, which is completely different than lawful protesting, they are only able to do this because their cognitive world is in the now. They do not understand that in order for them to be successful in life, to further themselves into their 40s, 50s, 60s, and then to have that at retirement, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it in the real world. So a great majority of them are going to get the proverbial kick to the nuts in one way, shape, or form. Now, some will stay in academia, like the majority of these professors that are being arrested along with the other criminal actors. They've been in academia. That's their world. They are in a bubble. But the majority of people that are going to go out and they're going to find out that, I want to make a complaint. Why? Because, Andrew's coffee cup is triggering me. The color of it is triggering me. And you're going to have the boss go, shut up. Like, that's going to happen for a lot of them. They're going to have to realize that that's not the world that they exist in. So you're right. When you get in the doom and gloom, there are always positives that come from this. The trick will be, is it too little too late? And if it is too little too late, well, the good thing is those that are taking it upon themselves, they are increasing their possible good times versus increasing their likelihood for bad times. If I have a kid that knows how to shoot a deer, gut the deer, field dress the deer, process the deer, versus a kid in the inner city who only knows how to play video games, can't change a spare tire, would black out if he ever saw how the beef that he was eating in a hamburger was made, that's a liability and not an asset. And I'm not saying there are kids out in the country that are the same way. I'm just saying statistically, those people that are setting their families up, they're creating assets, not liabilities. And that, even on bad outcome, is better for them. And that is good. That is something that that's what this podcast is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like that really is kind of my point of view. Like, I genuinely don't want to accept or believe or entertain that this country is too far gone for a variety of reasons. Like, not the least of which is the fact that I enlisted when I was 17 years old. Obviously, I've got some emotions tied up in that. But like, I can remember a time many, many moons ago, before the beard came in, when I still had hair on the top and that whole thing, where I completely changed majors. I completely changed career paths. I changed the forward direction of my entire life based simply on the fact that I met a girl and I wanted to be a father and I wanted to have kids. And I made the decision at that point, I don't want to pursue the career path I was on because it was going to mandate I was going to raise my kids overseas. And if I was going to have children, I wanted them to be American citizens. Like, I didn't have any real qualms with moving to Germany or Italy to pursue that career path. But if I was going to have kids, I wanted to be Americans. And so I firmly want to believe that this crazy experiment we undertook can be saved. If
I,
it
I agree with
can't,
you.
if it can't, then I will be one of the ones roasting marshmallows over the flames and marveling at the ashes with everybody else. But I want to believe it can be saved. And if it can be saved, then the answer is what it always is. It's to protect yourself, protect your family, build up your community and your tribe, take care of your kids and make sure that they're ready to pick up the baton after you drop it, and hope that the next generation is less screwed up than ours was. I'm a
Well,
millennial, by the way, so I am happy to own a lot of as a member of this generation. I'm prepared to own a lot of the nonsense that's going on in this country right now. I hope upon hope that my borderline Gen Z, Gen Alpha daughter has a less screwed up generation than I did.
yeah, you bring up an interesting thing. I think it's the role of the responsible American, a role of an American, a responsible citizen who happens to be an American. You have to take the same lesson that we do with, video analysis and use of force. It's not good guy die, bad guy die, or good guy live, bad guy live. Why did the winner win? Why did the loser lose? Learn from it, and then fix it so it doesn't happen to you. Well, you take the same lesson. A American must be able to see the failure of his country, because if you can see how it happens in your brain, you can work to make sure it doesn't happen. And so I am always in my thoughts, whether I'm on a run or on a bike ride, where my brain can really just start to kind of ponder. I always get brought back to Yamamoto, who said, behind every blade of grass, a rifle. First of all, about talking about invasion of mainland United States, which is very important. And then you hear discussions from that KGB defector talking about, well, everybody knows the United States can't be brought down from outside, but it certainly can be brought down from the inside. So if you go back to Yamamoto, behind every blade of grass, a rifle. Well, if all Americans are running around with the muzzle of their rifles in their mouth, with their toes on the trigger, the country can absolutely go down. But if it's every man a rifleman who knows what they're doing, good luck taking the country. And so that is the trick, is knowing what it will take is more Americans to give a shit than the inverse. And right now, why we are concerned is because I would imagine it's not majority number who would prefer to see the stars and stripes hit the dirt. It is a good amount of people with institutions. And those institutions are higher learning, of course, the current United States government and all the lackeys therein, or whoever is actually running the government, because it sure as hell isn't the guy that calls himself POTUS. That's pretty clear. The media, huge institution, magnifying what we hope is a minority voice, and I'm talking minority as in people that want to destroy the country, versus the majority of red-blooded Americans that want to see it continue and wave into the fields of wheat for many, many centuries to come. That's the trick, though. So now we know, okay, yeah, there are foreign things that we have to worry about, but what we really need to focus on is only we can do ourselves in. So look with the whole think globally, act locally, right? That's truly it. You have to look at, okay, what's going on around you that can cause the biggest harm to the way things are that is safe for your family. And Elon Musk, it's always funny in my family that I fell very far from the tree. They think Elon Musk is the devil because he's the guy that was the darling of the left, and now he's actually all about the rights. As if I'm not mistaken, a South African who's now a naturalized American. And it's amazing that the guys that actually did the hard work to become Americans, they really care about being an American versus the people who just step across the border and take free stuff, right? So Elon Musk, he was talking about free speech and the dangers that are coming from the government, the media, and simply saying, this is one vote, one pen stroke away. And if this goes away, it's just take notes from every other country that we watched, cookie cutter after cookie cutter after cookie cutter. I'll tell you a great story, a segue. I just had a college student reach out to me. This is very interesting, from I'm guessing a liberal college. I don't actually know, but I'm going to take a guess. It's a college here in Michigan. And he said, hey, I'm doing a thing on guns. I'm like, oh, great. I know where this email is going. He's probably looking for the opposing viewpoint. And he said, I'm looking, the point of my paper is, are guns bad? Are guns bad? And I'm trying to get a counterpoint or your take. I found you online. Well, I wrote him a response saying guns are really bad. Guns are really bad. And if you want to read it, anybody wants to read, I'm happy to send it to you. And basically what it was is I said, yeah, guns are horrible. And I broke down historically all of the innocent people across the world that have been massacred at the hands of armed governments. And I don't think it went the way that he expected me to respond. I said, so statistically, the government, the people that try to take our guns, are far more likely to do horrible things with the guns. And so because of statistics, guns do more harm than good.
Mhm.
But at the same time, as the individual who could also be massacred, I'm not giving up anything because I see what the statistics tell me will happen if I give my guns up. And of course, you responded with, thank you for your time. And I said, I'd love to see your paper when you're done. And I haven't heard anything about it, right? And I don't think I will, because I imagine all went to the bottom of the trash bin. But I did share it with the alumni, and I said, this is that critical thinking point of view. Yeah, I mean, there are everything that we're being told is that they're trying to outlaw. They're only dangerous in the hands of governments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this guy, this dude in New York that just got the 10-year prison sentence, Dexter Taylor. And I hope the FBC criminal. Statistically, he's a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
There's however many million other Americans out there that because of his actions, his criminal behavior does not warrant anything being done to me. But these blanket statements, the restrictions on free speech, the concealed carry free gun-free zones, they are all tidbit bites out of rights that only protect me from statistics. And statistically, all harm on a gross scale comes from governments or large entities that are no longer acting in the best interest of their people. And that's the thing that we as Americans have to say. It can happen. It has happened. What are you going to do? And it doesn't mean grab your AR and run off in the streets yelling huzzah. But the majority of Americans haven't written a letter. They haven't written a letter to their congressman. Hey, let's prove that the congressperson is actually working for me. The moment I find out they're not, well, now start the next step and getting involved in the campaign of the person that's going to oust them. And it's, you take it, I'm a movie quote fan, take it from Benjamin Martin in The Patriot. Write a letter. They said, we've already written a letter. He said, write another one, because you don't understand what if we just say, well, someone else is going to do it, we have inertia, we're lazy. The end result is not, even when we talk about being prepared, it's still not what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And we are, as we've mentioned in the show, as dangerously close to that as possible. And it's, believe me, it ain't what we want. The delusions of grandeur of anyone, not Americans, but anybody that likes to LARP and wear all the gear, that's never seen the carnage of conflict, you don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Your uniform will not be bright and shiny. It will be covered in blood, covered in grime. You will be malnourished. You will watch people die that you love. So get involved now.
Mm-hmm.
And but as Americans, my mind has to be able to go there and say, oh my God, what do I need to do to make sure that never happens? You know, if I need to run for sheriff, not saying I am rich, I know you're the sheriff, I'm like, I'm not, but if I need to do that because the sheriff in this hypothetical situation is being unconstitutional, well, I'm going to do that far before I ever grab an AR-15.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people just go, I'm going to wait for the next guy to do it. I'm going to wait for the next person to go door to door and be on a campaign trail or write a letter or have conversations like this, right? So, yeah, the long and the short of it is no one's bringing down the United States except for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the benefit to what's happening, yes, there is some downside, but the conditions are ripe for great strife and problems. But a lot of people are waking up and saying, I've been asleep at the wheel too long, and it's now time to either get involved, either running for office, doing something formal, or just simply, as Phil said, pull your kids aside and have to talk about these kids in the college campus. What are they really doing? And think for themselves. And that's you got to turn the frown upside down. Otherwise, you'll get wallowing in the quagmire of that adult life, right?
Well, I mean, that's just really quick before you start wrapping up. That's just like Brandon Herrera in Texas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, he saw what's going on with the congressman that is basically signing away all kinds of rights. He's
Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, he's time and time again. He's voted to keep sending money over to Ukraine. I mean, a bunch of stuff. And
he voted for Biden's bipartisan gun control bill.
Yeah, and so
pissed off a bunch
Brandon
of his
Herrera's like, you know what?
That.
So I'm gonna see what I can do to.
It sure is great to see the knives come out now.
Yeah.
He actually has a chance, right?
Yeah,
It's amazing
yeah,
how
it's-
afraid they
it's-
are. You
yeah,
can
it's
tell by
pretty
how many
crazy.
knives you get at you.
So yeah, but so yeah, interesting.
We have some very interesting
Oh, yeah.
shows coming up in the future, just with
Yeah.
what's going on. That'll definitely spark some new conversations for sure.
2024 is definitely going to give us plenty to talk about. That it's an election year, guys. Like, I would love to be a happy little tinfoil hat wearing, prepper and sit here and talk about all the nerdy crap that I'm doing to get ready for SHTF and all that stuff. But I just don't think the country is going to allow us for the next several months because there's just going to be weird things happening.
Well, the best part will be like if we can do the show and be like, well, it's November 6th, everybody, and we're still here. Instead of coming to you live from the bunker, this is Phil, Andrew, and Trek. Who's not blowing the dark, by the way.
Yeah.
Technically, there's no reason we couldn't do a November 6th show with all of us wearing body armor with helmets on, with a Coke and bourbon sitting on the desk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we do need to start packing this up. But Trek, like, I feel like anybody that's in our audience for more than like 6 minutes probably already knows who you are. But give them the sales pitch to convince them to come to Michigan and fill their head with useful things.
Sure, yeah. So Eric Trek, owner of MDFI Training out of Michigan. Teach rifle, handgun, shotgun, less lethal use of force on force. Teach about 70 classes a year in Michigan and surrounding states. We're actually just started kind of in our first full month of classes. Classes are, even with the economy, we're seeing really good, class numbers, which is awesome. Just finished up a weekend teaching our most popular handgun class called You Suck, It's Not the Gun, which is only 100 rounds fired in 8 hours, and arguably the most important shooting class we teach because accuracy is, of course, always final. But yeah, you can find us on trainmdfi.com. I'm Trek at trainmdfi.com if you want to send me an email. If you'd like to read that response that I wrote to the college kid, I will be happy to send it on. We're actually also offering our 2-page opening briefing, our firearms control briefing. We do it every firearms class. I'm offering that for free for anybody as long as you give us credit. I will email you the PDF, and that way you can use that at your range sessions. If you're a firearms instructor, if you're a law enforcement instructor and you want to use that, that's something I just started this year. But not only am I the owner of MDFI, I am soon to be a firearms product. I'm a designer now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you're taking a lot of hats.
Yeah. So it looks like I just sold a range. Looks like I might be buying into another range. And then NRA show starts Saturday in Texas, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And my first firearms product that I designed along with a friend of mine named Z, the Incredible Z, our first firearms product is coming to market. Being manufactured by Shield Arms. You guys are the first one to hear this. So we're really excited about that.
So in other words, you're going to be back on in a couple weeks to talk to us about that.
I'm going to try to avoid the shameless pitches. I am fairly confident that this product will sell itself, and I'm not going to need to do much talking about it. I can only hint, but I'll leave you with this. Imagine 100 years worth of guns being brought into the modern age.
I feel like that's a riddle.
100 years worth of guns being brought up into the modern age with a 5-ounce part.
Well, unless you're talking about a red dot mount for cap and ball pistols, I think we might have to
write that down now. That's not a bad idea.
That is not a bad idea.
And if you decide to go that route, I got a buddy who likes to play with black powder stuff. You should definitely talk to because he's just crazy enough to help you put that into action.
Listen, if the world is going to end, you have to have serious guns, and then you have to have a crazy pistol. That is when the zombie hordes are cresting the hill and all the mags are empty on the ground. You got to pull off that dragoon with an SRO on it and yell huzzah! That's exactly
Tally ho, mother effer.
That's exactly how you got to go out.
With a bayonet.
If I can't have a 4-pound field gun loaded with friggin' buckshot, and what are we even doing?
I know.
Right.
All right, well, let's go ahead and kick this one out the door. I'm going to have all the links to Trek's nonsense, MDFI's nonsense, and everything else I can think of shoved down in the show description, even though none of y'all read that, I know. But I put there just in case any of y'all would like to click a link rather than read or rather than listen. And if you didn't make it this far into the show, that's your own fault. You missed a lot of funny shenanigans. And Matter of Fact's podcast going out the door. Trek, thanks for stopping by, and we'll have you back just as soon as we can talk about a cap and ball pistol with a Neotech on it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.